But I just want to ask you this. There's a YouGov poll last week gave Labor a 33-point lead over the Conservatives. As you move around the conference and talk to all of these people from top to bottom, are they aware of this Tory meltdown?
Yes, they are. They are. I was actually speaking to some people last night out at a dinner, and they said that last year's conference, totally different mood. Boris would walk into any room that he wanted and would basically arrive to everyone standing and cheering him on. This year, very divided. There's no doubt that the prolonged leadership contest divided a lot of people. Everyone is now split into two camps. Now they're really banding with Michael Gove, who I was very fortunate enough to be allowed into a very intimate Q&A session with him. He's been dubbed as the rebel leader and basically leading the charge. So he led the charge to scrap the plans to bring about that top income tax rate cut, and now they're going after the plan to scrap bankers' bonuses. That's also another contentious issue. But Alan, it basically started behind me here, the BBC studios. Liz Truss was here in these studios on Sunday morning. That was the morning of the first day of the conference, and she gave an interview, and she was asked, whose idea was it, basically, this mini budget? And it's a bit of a blame game, but she basically threw Kwasi under the bus, her Chancellor. She said, oh no, it was all the Chancellor. And that has now opened up a division between the Chancellor and the Prime Minister, who they're basically best buds. Liz Truss, I asked someone last night, who backs Liz Truss? And it's a coalition of people within the party. She actually hasn't really got a solid power base of her own. Unlike Boris. Boris had the Brexiteers and those from the North and the West Midlands. But she hasn't really got a large sort of band of MPs behind her. It's a real motley crew behind her, and one of them was Kwasi.
Yeah. So, Jake, I mean, you've studied this. This young bloke knows this scene backwards. One question arises out of all of this. At the time Boris Johnson was thrown out by a handful of disaffected parliamentary members, none of this was going on. There was none of this heightened anxiety and meltdowns and all the rest of it. Is that what people are saying now and thinking, well, hang on, Boris was a lot better than this?
Yep. A lot of regret, Alan. There is a lot of regret at the conference about letting Boris go. They say he will be back. They say he'll be back. Give him 2 years, and he will be back. Basically, and this is really interesting. Basically, there were about 4 operatives, they say, in Downing Street, who at the start of 2020 consistently plotted against Boris Johnson in a bid to get rid of him, in a bid to get rid of the democratically elected Prime Minister. There was 4 of them, and that is why we had this drip that occurred. So first was the party. The parties would never stop. When it died down in the media, a new revelation would be leaked to the media. These are people in Downing Street who were planning to get rid of Boris from day one. They did not like him. And then the other matter was, so it's the 3 Ps, Partygate, Patterson and the lobbying, and Pritchard. Yes. And these were all stories, and they used Dominic Cummings as basically a pawn. He wasn't involved in getting rid of Boris Johnson, but they used him as a pawn. But there was 4 people in Downing Street who were plotting from day one to oust the democratically elected Prime Minister. So there's a lot of regret, but they say Boris will be back. Yeah. He's not at the conference this year, nor is Theresa May.